What if 300 was more than one of cinema's most iconic battles? The film once turned ancient warriors into modern legends. But off-screen, their lives fractured in very different ways. By 2026, the cast has been reshaped by broken marriages, financial collapse, and quiet disappearances. And once you know the truth, you'll understand the tragedies they were forced to face. Lena Headey as Queen Gorgo. Queen Gorgo, the political and emotional counterweight of Sparta in 300, was portrayed by Lena Headey. At 33 years old, she approached the role with restraint and measured authority rather than force. Her presence provided balance within a narrative dominated by combat. That restraint was shaped through structure rather than upheaval. Born October 3, 1973, in Hamilton, Bermuda, Lena Catherine Headey grew up in a family that relocated frequently due to her father's police service. After moving to England at age 5, she trained in ballet and theater, developing technical discipline early. Formal education and performance training defined her formative years. Her early career progressed steadily but without immediate breakthrough. Headey worked across British and American productions, including The Brothers Grimm, yet struggled to secure lasting recognition. Personal challenges emerged after motherhood, including publicly acknowledged postpartum depression, followed by marital separation. These pressures coincided with increasing professional expectations rather than a period of retreat. A decisive shift occurred with darker, psychologically demanding roles. Her portrayal of Cersei Lannister in Game of Thrones brought international recognition and 5 Emmy nominations, placing her among the most visible television actresses of the decade. The role required sustained intensity over multiple seasons, while she balanced single parenthood and ongoing legal and personal responsibilities. Today, Lena Headey is 53 years old. She continues to work selectively as an actress, voice performer, and producer, while maintaining a lower public profile than during her peak television years. With an estimated net worth of $12 million, her career reflects long-term persistence rather than rapid ascent, built through steady work, role complexity, and professional longevity. Gerard Butler as King Leonidas. King Leonidas, the Spartan king in 300, was portrayed by Gerard Butler. At 37 years old, he entered the role after months of extreme physical conditioning that reshaped his body and voice. The performance relied on discipline, physical strain, and controlled aggression rather than spectacle. That discipline was formed early. Born November 13, 1969, in Paisley, Renfrewshire, Scotland, Gerard James Butler grew up after his parents separated when he was still an infant. He spent most of his childhood living with his mother and reconnected with his father only in adolescence. During these years, he attended school in Scotland and later entered the University of Glasgow, where academic pressure replaced family instability. His adult life initially followed a different path. Butler studied law, served as president of his university law society, and trained as a solicitor, but alcohol abuse and repeated absences from work led to his dismissal shortly before qualification. He moved to London without professional standing and survived on temporary jobs while pursuing acting auditions. Gradual recognition came through demanding roles such as the Phantom of the Opera, setting the stage for later physically intensive projects. Success increased the workload rather than easing it. Butler continued selecting action-heavy films, including Law-Abiding Citizen and later the Has Fallen series, which required sustained stunt work. In 2011, a serious surfing accident during the filming of Chasing Mavericks led to hospitalization and later treatment for prescription painkiller dependency. Recovery required stepping back from alcohol entirely and restructuring his professional pace. Now, Gerard Butler is 57 years old. He remains active as an actor and producer, continuing to lead mid-budget action and thriller films while working between Scotland and the United States. His estimated net worth of $80 million reflects decades of sustained output rather than short-term fame, built through consistency, physical endurance, and recovery. David Wenham as Dilios. Dilios, the Spartan soldier and sole surviving witness in 300, was portrayed by David Wenham. At 41 years old, he embodied a character defined not by strength, but by memory and testimony. His role existed to remember the dead, not to glorify survival. Born September 21, 1965, in Marrickville, New South Wales, Australia, David Wenham was raised in a Roman Catholic family with 5 sisters and 1 brother. He attended Christian Brothers High School in Lewisham, where structure and routine dominated daily life. Growing up among many siblings meant learning to observe quietly rather than demand attention. In adulthood, Wenham chose stability over spectacle. He entered a long-term relationship with actress Kate Agnew in 1994, and together they raised 2 daughters while deliberately avoiding formal marriage. This choice placed him outside traditional celebrity narratives and limited his willingness to relocate permanently to Hollywood. The decision affected career momentum, but preserved personal continuity. That stability enabled him to work steadily across demanding projects such as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Boys, The Crucible, and later Elvis, without prolonged absences. In 2023, his sustained contribution was formally recognized with appointment as Member of the Order of Australia. Today, David Wenham is 61 years old. He continues working across film, television, and theater while living in Brisbane with his partner and children. With an estimated net worth of $3 million, his life stands apart from Hollywood excess, defined by restraint, longevity, and quiet consistency. Rodrigo Santoro as Xerxes, the Persian god king in 300, was portrayed by Rodrigo Santoro. At 31 years old, he faced a role designed to dominate through silence and scale rather than action. The character required him to vanish behind power instead of performance. That disappearance mirrored a turning point in his own life. Born August 22, 1975, in Petrópolis, Rio de Janeiro, Rodrigo Junqueira dos Reis Santoro built early visibility through Brazilian telenovelas, where fame came fast but movement was tightly controlled. When he set his sights on Hollywood, he did so without an agent, entering an industry that offered exposure but little protection. As professional pressure intensified, his private life fractured under public scrutiny. A long, high-profile relationship with actress Luana Piovani collapsed amid accusations of infidelity, followed by another breakup with model Ellen Jabor in 2008. The emotional instability of those years pushed him away from spectacle and toward privacy. That shift aligned with the physical cost of Xerxes. Each shooting day demanded over 4 hours of makeup, heavy prosthetics, and intentional weight reduction, forcing extreme discipline and isolation. Afterward, Santoro chose roles where control mattered more than transformation, moving into international projects like Love Actually and later Westworld, where restraint replaced excess. By 2026, Rodrigo Santoro is 51 years old. He continues working across American and Brazilian productions, often dubbing his own performances to retain creative authority. With an estimated net worth of $10 million, his career reads not as a smooth ascent, but as endurance forged across borders, reinvention, and restraint. Michael Fassbender, as Stelios, the young Spartan warrior in 300, was portrayed by Michael Fassbender. At 29 years old, he entered the film with no established global reputation. The role placed him among bodies built for war long before audiences recognized his name. Born April 2, 1977, in Heidelberg, West Germany, Michael Fassbender moved to Ireland at the age of 2 and was raised Catholic in County Kerry. His upbringing involved constant movement between Germany and Ireland, shaping a divided identity from an early age. At 17, acting replaced conventional career paths, pushing him toward formal training in London. Fassbender's personal life later drew public scrutiny. Before marriage, he was involved in a long-term relationship that ended amid allegations of domestic abuse in 2010, claims that resurfaced publicly years later and were never fully resolved in the media. In 2017, he married actress Alicia Vikander, and together they built a private family life with 2 sons, distancing themselves from prolonged public exposure. Physically, Fassbender's career repeatedly demanded extremes. His preparation for hunger required severe caloric restriction that dramatically altered his body, followed by psychologically punishing performances in Shame and 12 Years a Slave. Years of sustained intensity contributed to his decision to step away from acting entirely after 2019, redirecting focus to professional auto racing for 4 years. Today, Michael Fassbender is 49 years old. He has returned to acting selectively while maintaining family privacy and continued involvement in motorsport. With an estimated net worth of $40 million, his career is defined less by linear rise than by cycles of disappearance, reinvention, and controlled return. Dominic West as Tiernan. Tiernan, the corrupt Spartan politician in 300, was portrayed by Dominic West. At 37 years old, he shaped betrayal through calculation rather than violence. The role positioned him as a threat born from within the system. That inward danger reflected his formation. Born October 15, 1969, in Sheffield, England, Dominic Gerard, Francis Eagleton. West grew up the 6th of 7 children in a family of Irish descent. Though educated at Eton College, he deliberately stepped away from comfort, spending months herding cattle in Argentina before committing to literature at Trinity College Dublin and formal training at the Guildhall School. As recognition arrived, family life became a boundary he refused to cross. He became a father in 1998 with Polly Astor, then later reunited with Catherine Fitzgerald, marrying her in 2010 and raising 4 children together. Those responsibilities reshaped his ambition, most visibly when he declined Game of Thrones, choosing proximity over global exposure. Professionally, the pressure shifted toward consistency rather than conquest. The Wire established him as a defining television presence, but its intensity demanded balance rather than repetition. Later work in The Affair and The Crown marked a transition from volatility to authority, allowing longevity without burnout. Now, Dominic West is 57 years old. He remains active across television, film, and theater, while dividing his life between the UK and Ireland. With an estimated net worth of $20 million, his career stands as a study in selectivity, built not on constant expansion, but on control. Andrew Tiernan as Ephialtes. Ephialtes, the exiled Spartan whose betrayal reshapes the fate of 300, was portrayed by Andrew Tiernan. At 41 years old, he undertook the film's most extreme physical and emotional transformation. His character carried deformity, rejection, and consequence, becoming the moral rupture of the story. That transformation rested on decades of preparation. Born November 30, 1965, in Birmingham, England, Tiernan trained at the Drama Centre, London after early work with the Birmingham Youth Theatre. His early career favored psychological intensity over commercial appeal, with roles in Prime Suspect, Cracker, and later The Pianist, establishing him as an actor trusted with darkness rather than comfort. The role of Ephialtes pushed that reputation further. Full-body prosthetics required up to 10 hours of application daily, often leaving Tiernan immobilized for extended periods during filming. The performance demanded endurance rather than expression, turning physical suffering into narrative function and isolating him from conventional acting rhythms. After 300, Tiernan chose expansion over repetition. He continued acting in complex dramatic roles while gradually shifting toward directing, debuting with Dragonfly and later developing character-driven films through his own production work. This move reflected a desire for control after years spent physically transforming for others' visions. Today, Andrew Tiernan is 61 years old. He remains active internationally as both actor and filmmaker, balancing screen work with directing and production. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, his career stands as one defined by transformation, endurance, and deliberate reinvention. Tom Wisdom as Astainos. Astainos, the Spartan soldier whose death becomes a turning point in 300, was portrayed by Tom Wisdom. At 33 years old, he entered the film as a supporting presence rather than a narrative driver. His role existed to be lost, and that loss carried weight far beyond screen time. That moment was the result of a long, uneven climb. Born February 18, 1973. In England, Wisdom built his career through British television, stage work, and independent film long before international audiences noticed him. Early roles in series like Coronation Street and adaptations such as Sword of Honor demanded speed, discipline, and adaptability, but rarely offered long-term security. As his career progressed, stability remained elusive. Wisdom moved between television dramas, theater productions, and film roles that placed him consistently on the edge of visibility. Films like The Boat That Rocked and Hannibal Rising brought exposure, but not momentum, forcing him to rely on continuity of work rather than breakthrough moments. That pattern eventually shifted with sustained television casting. His role as the Archangel Michael in Dominion required authority, physical presence, and emotional restraint across multiple seasons, marking one of the few periods where his career held narrative control rather than reaction. It was earned through persistence rather than timing. Today, Tom Wisdom is 53 years old. He continues working across film, television, and theater, maintaining a professional rhythm shaped by experience rather than celebrity. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, his career reflects longevity built on endurance, not spectacle. Peter Mensah as Persian Messenger. Persian Messenger, the envoy whose defiance triggers Sparta's fury in 300, was portrayed by Peter Mensah. At 47 years old, he delivered authority through stillness rather than dialogue. The role demanded presence strong enough to end abruptly. That authority was not accidental. Born on August 27, 1959, in Chira, Ghana, Mensah grew up in an academic household before moving to England at a young age. Discipline arrived early, shaped by structure rather than indulgence. By 6, he had begun martial arts training, a lifelong practice that refined balance, restraint, and physical awareness. This experiences later became central to his screen presence rather than mere athletic display. Before acting entered the picture, stability defined his path. Mensah trained as an engineer and built a professional life with British Gas, eventually relocating to Canada to help develop offshore gas fields. The pivot in 1995 meant starting over completely, exchanging security for uncertainty at an age when most people protect what they have already built. The transition demanded patience, humility, and the willingness to be unseen again. That risk reshaped everything. His physical intelligence and controlled intensity translated naturally to roles of command and endurance. Television work expanded steadily, culminating in Spartacus, where his portrayal of Wenham required sustained emotional containment across multiple seasons. In film, appearances in Tears of the Sun and Avatar reinforced his reputation as a figure of gravity. Today, Peter Mensah is 67 years old. He continues to work across film, television, and voice performance, including genre projects that value presence over spectacle. Based in Canada, with an estimated net worth of around $5 million, his career stands as proof that reinvention does not need to be early to be lasting, and that authority, once earned, does not fade easily. Kelly Craig as Oracle, Pythia. Oracle, Pythia, the chosen Spartan girl whose trance halts a war in 300, was played by Kelly Craig. At 22 years old, she carried a role defined by vulnerability rather than power. Her presence lingered long after her brief appearance ended. That intensity came without the usual scaffolding of a long resume. Born October 1984 in Canada, Craig grew up between Alberta and Montreal, entering the industry through modeling before film offered a sudden, exposed turn. The transition placed her in front of the camera with little insulation, and the role's disturbing implications quickly eclipsed any sense of forward momentum. From there, the path narrowed instead of widening. Opportunities followed, but they orbited the same fragile image, making repetition a risk rather than growth. Rather than chase expansion through similar roles, Craig stepped back, choosing distance over acceleration as attention focused more on the image than the performer. Work continued, but on her own terms. She returned to modeling, appearing in Elle Canada and Elle Quebec, while selecting smaller creative projects such as I, Juliet, and I Want to Be Like You. These roles offered participation without surrender, allowing presence without exposure. Now, Kelly Craig is 42 years old. She remains largely private, balancing occasional creative work with modeling. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, her story reads as a deliberate withdrawal from intensity rather than a collapse beneath it. Stephen McHattie as Loyalist, the Spartan elder whose voice reinforces tradition in 300, was portrayed by Stephen McHattie. At 59 years old, he brought authority rooted in age rather than force. The role relied on credibility earned, not imposed. That credibility began early. Born February 3, 1947, in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, McHattie was raised in Guysborough County, where isolation sharpened observation. By 16, he was already performing in amateur theater, and at 19, he left for New York City to study at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Momentum followed through persistence, not comfort. Over decades, McHattie accumulated more than 200 roles, often inhabiting men shaped by moral tension and consequence. Collaborations with directors like David Cronenberg and Darren Aronofsky, alongside films such as Watchmen and Pontypool, cemented his reputation for psychological depth rather than mainstream polish. Away from the screen, life held both continuity and change. McHattie married actress Lisa Houle, raising 3 children after an earlier marriage to Meg Foster. Even as recognition grew, he remained rooted in character work, earning a Genie Award for The Rocket and critical acclaim for Pontypool without chasing celebrity. By 2026, Stephen McHattie is 79 years old. He remains a respected presence in Canadian and international cinema, his legacy defined by range and longevity. With an estimated net worth of $6 million, his career reads as accumulation, role by role, decade by decade, rather than reinvention. Tyler Neitzel as young Leonidas. Young Leonidas, the boy whose survival foreshadows a king in 300, was played by Tyler Neitzel. At 15 years old, he embodied endurance at the beginning of a legend. The role asked him to hold the film's origin in silence. That beginning stayed close to home. Born on September 19, 1991 in San Diego, California, Neitzel entered the industry early, navigating auditions, commercials, and set schedules alongside schoolwork. Early film work such as The Big Brass Ring, where he portrayed a younger version of an adult character, reinforced discipline and patience rather than instant recognition. As adolescence closed, momentum slowed instead of exploding. Neitzel continued to work steadily, appearing on television series like ER and Crossing Jordan, roles that required reliability more than reinvention. Later, guest work on Criminal Minds extended that pattern. In film, supporting roles in Reconciliation and Freeway Killer kept him active while confirming a career defined by consistency rather than rapid ascent. Gradually, his focus shifted outward. Alongside acting, Neitzel invested time and energy into business, co-founding a real estate venture that redirected his daily life away from constant auditions. That decision reframed success on his own terms, replacing industry uncertainty with structure and long-range planning. Today, in 2026, Tyler Neitzel is 35 years old. He balances occasional screen work with business interests, choosing steadiness over reinvention and privacy over pursuit. With an estimated net worth of around $500,000, his path reads not as a rise or a fall, but as survival beyond the screen. Proof that not every legend needs to keep fighting to endure. Patrick Sabongui as Persian General. Persian General, the armored commander who delivers authority through presence in 300, was portrayed by Patrick Sabongui. At 31 years old, he stepped into a role that relied on physical command rather than dialogue. The performance asked him to project menace without narrative protection. That restraint mirrored the road behind him. Born January 9, 1975, in Montreal, Canada, to an Egyptian family, Sabongui built his foundation through discipline rather than exposure, earning a BFA at Concordia University and later an MFA at UC Irvine. With that training complete, he entered an industry where credentials did not guarantee visibility, forcing him to navigate sideways rather than forward. Career pressure tested personal balance early. Married to actress Kira Zagorski since 2002 and raising 2 children, Sabongui carried family responsibility while taking physically demanding stunt work to stay employed. Long hours, travel, and instability defined those years before acting roles could offer consistency. Health crises never redirected his path, but physical risk did. Years as a stunt performer shaped both opportunity and limitation, pushing him toward on-camera authority roles where experience mattered. That transition paid off through sustained work in projects like Godzilla and later Homeland, before long-term recognition arrived with his steady presence on The Flash. Today, Patrick Sabongui is 51 years old. He continues working across television and film while mentoring actors through teaching, splitting time between Los Angeles and Vancouver. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, his career reflects persistence built through impact rather than spotlight. So that's all today's video. The cast once stood frozen in time, carved into one unforgettable battle in 2026. But 20 years later, their lives have moved in very different directions. Some rising quietly, others stepping away, and a few disappearing when no one expected it. Which story surprised you the most, and which one stayed with you the longest? Leave a comment, share this video with a fellow fan, and subscribe for more cast stories that time almost forgot.